put the brush in my hand and said, why don't you try? Because I said I didn't paint.
Well, it's not.
So I started the next day. We were at a store buying artist supplies, and I never stopped seeing. At first I was painting mostly, I would say, generic landscape. This is landscape of the desert in Israel, where my current research station is. It's wide open. And then something like this came out. If you would ask, my sister said, I didn't know you could do that. I said, I didn't know either. And this is only two colors. It's only red and green, and even the black is actually a mixture of red and green. A book that I found really useful is Thomas Queller's book about water media, because he deals not just with color, but with specific pigments, because the particular pigment behaves in a particular way. So not all my roosters come out quite as good as the other ones. But then I started scribbling. If something didn't come out the way I liked it, I just started scribbling, and then I found that I was verging more and more into abstract stuff. I mean, it was less and less like landscape, and more just playing around with different colors and different brushes and different papers, and with different amounts of water. And I also found myself doing series. This is the thing, the first of a series of having an uneven grid and then filling it in with different colors. And I found that I liked it a lot. And as you will see, I started experimenting with it with different colors, different grids that you'll see in the next slide. Different colors, different grids. What happens when you do neutrals with only a little bit of color? What happens when the grid is not quite a grid, or we just have this basic movement but without the same framework? And each of these takes only a few minutes. I mean, the problem with the good and bad thing about watercolors is you can't really keep working on them. You just sit down, you do a little bit. It's the specific brush and the specific paint. I think that the one on the top right it reminds me of an artist that I don't know. The other ones are just, okay, I'm sitting here, I start with this color, with this brush, and let's see what comes out. And I'm still fascinated by the results. This is, I think, one of the first times that I decided to use neutrals as well as color, the black and sepia. I find that I use red and blue and yellow together quite a lot. And it just, again, I'm fascinated by the way it comes out. This is the same idea, but it's somewhat a little bit different. Again, neutrals, big chunky shapes of neutrals, and adding colors to bring life to the total composition. And I never know when I sit at a piece of paper what it's going to end up being. Now here, when I produced an opera last May, I needed a graph, and I was looking for something and couldn't find it. So I started scribbling with a brush with black paint, and I ended up with this face, which gave me just what I needed, which was black and white for financial reasons, so I don't have to pay for color copying, but something that's distinctive, that's eye-catching. When I was going for the elixir of love that just happened there, I knew already that I was going for black and white pen drawings, if you like. I started with the he and her and a bottle, and then I decided I don't need the bottle. I picked two of the faces that I really liked, combined them, cut them out of that and combined them into a composition, and added one of the, I also needed color because this was also online and also in color copies of the Kimball Theatre calendar. And here is the black and white version of the color, which is what I ended up using in most of my PR. I have some examples here. It's already passed, so it's not really advertising. And then I ended up using the same two faces again with a different background taken from a different painting, because I realized at this point people treat me as an impresaria, and I need to have an ID, a graphic ID of opera in Williamsburg, and not only a particular production. This is what I'm using for the DVD. I'm not sure whether this, for the recording that we did, I don't know whether this will be the cover for the DVD. Luckily, these guys are really photogenic. And then again, I continue quite often. I start with something that's not what I would go to normally. This red and green, for example, are not really my colors. except that they work together really beautifully. Or where you can see the one at the bottom there is one of my earliest still landscape-oriented ones. But then again, I just sit and scribble with this red and the red one with the blue. That was on wet paper, and then I touched it with a little bit of glue, and it just spread dramatically, and I really loved it. And you can see the face appearing again in the middle bottom. And I also experiment with wetting a part of the paper. You can see here I use a lot of brown and blue, particular brown and blue, and here a part of the paper was wet, so it creates a really nice dynamic. At the top, I wet a part and then paint so that the painting is partly on wet and partly on dry, so you get a nice clean edge, but also get the diffusion of the color. These are some of my later paintings. The purple and green one is another case of, these are not really my colors, but let's see what happens when I combine them together, and I really like it. You can see the eye that I had in the Elysée also appearing here. These eyes tend to pop up now in my paintings all over the place. This is I was taking again something that I didn't show here, one of my earliest paintings, but combining it with more, again, partly wet paper, elements that, and this is one of my very latest paintings that I find that I like. I think that things are getting more complex now, that I find more confidence. And I have no idea what it will take me. If you had told me, let's say, 9 months ago that I would do this at all, I would have thought I was crazy. At this point, I usually tend to scribble a few paintings a day. And it may not be the cheapest thing to do in the world, but it's less expensive than knitting. So.